Welcome to Conversations with Cubit. I got to thank you for tuning in week after week. Please stay engaged because I'm telling you, we have a lineup of conversations that I cannot wait to share with you. I'm super excited about tonight's conversation. So you need to start a watch party. You need to tell all your friends. We need to share this right now. As you know, I only have really three simple goals for having these conversations every week. I want to add value to people in my community. I want to inspire you to believe in what people can become. And then lastly, love people, period. Just period. Just love people. All this means is that I want you to be inspired. I want you to get useful information and resources, and I want to celebrate individuals, groups, and organizations who are making a positive impact in our community. Every conversation that I have here every week will be about information, inspiration, and hope. Tonight will be another fantastic conversation with someone my family and I lean on a regular basis. My guest tonight is none other than the great Michael McDaniel. Yes, Michael McDaniel happens to be a good friend of mine, and he happens to also be my pastor at the Northeast Missionary Baptist Church. Reverend McDaniel earned his bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Oklahoma in '97. He's got a master's degree in public school administration from Oral Roberts University, and Reverend McDaniel is a graduate from John Marshall High School here in Oklahoma City. John Marshall, not Millwood. This is where he developed into a really outstanding athlete. He competed and excelled in football, basketball, and track. And as a result of his successful athletic career, Reverend McDaniel earned a full football scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, where he received several awards, which included honorable mention to the old Big Eight and to the All Big 12 Conference wide receiver, and the recipient of the Don Key Award. Reverend McDaniel was later picked up by the San Francisco 49ers as a free agent, and then he tried out for the Washington Redskins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Reverend McDaniel met and married Dr. Cartina McDaniel in 1994, and the McDaniels are the proud parents of three children, Tevin, Jaden, and Leah. My pastor McDaniel, my friend, has just authored his first book, Things I Think You Ought to Know from a Father to a Son. That's this right here. And so we can take this conversation many directions, but in honor of Father's Day approaching this coming Sunday, I thought we should have a conversation about this book. This book is promised to be a long-lasting source of encouragement and hope for all fathers and sons. Please help me with a warm virtual welcome to my friend and my pastor, Reverend Michael McDaniel. Thank you.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on.
Can you hear him?
Conversations with Cubit. I'm just glad I'm just worthy enough to get to this seat, man.
You're pass worthy. You pass. I know you want me to do a lot more work. I'm pretty busy. I know you do not let me sit down. Right, you keep me busy, but I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because I know you're on the book tour.
Listen, the Chitlin circuit.
You're on the book tour, and I know, and because we talk a lot, I personally know how much time and effort that you put into this book, and so we're going to dive into it. Well,
yes,
we can't go all the way into it. I don't want to give it all away.
Yeah.
Because they got to buy the book.
Yeah.
To get all the stories. But tell us a little bit. I know a little bit where you're from, but tell the audience who don't know you from football and all that other stuff, where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm from Oklahoma City, a place called Musgrave, which you're familiar with. And the Spring Lake Division Police Department is
the police department know about Musgrave.
Yeah, very familiar with my community.
That's probably why you were so fast.
Listen,
that's the track.
I
athlete.
can't tell you, I did get a little practice from time to time. But no, man, from that area, a single parent home, but I know who my father is, and he was around, and but just was nurtured in that community. A lot of people will look at it and it's like, oh, how bad it is. But it's amazing the kind of peace and solace you can find in difficult places, right? So there were men and women in that community that cared. And then I can share stories that there were bad things happening, but there were some people who recognized something in me early and refused to let me get in trouble. I could go into names, but you the police still, so I don't want to do all of that. But there were people.
I won't be looking up Day Day.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Chicken Head and all these other names that you might call them.
No, man. But they recognized some stuff in me early, and really, they made an investment, man. So I'm grateful. And then at John Marshall, being coached by people like Tommy Griffin, Clyde Ellis. Andy Bogert, all of those people who really had an impact. Richard Garrett, and I can go on naming names, but it was in those places, man, that people carved out kind of what you see now, right?
Yeah, one of the things that you talk about that I think, and I want to put this out there for any of the people that I mentor, or if you have young people, that you talk about not being a great in academia.
No.
You talk about struggling.
So yeah, I was a LD kid, right? I think they don't use those. They use the letters, but they're not as harsh, right? We called it learning disabilities back in the day, but now I think they call them learning differences. No, man, I just didn't have it academically and didn't know how to learn and was probably a tad bit ornery and rebellious as it relates to that. And so it wasn't until later when I got to college, honestly, where I think I began to turn around. Now, I tell a story in the book, and the principle is I tell my sons, learn how to give people a second chance. Well, I was on my way out that university, but they gave me a second chance. And so, no, man, I was not very smart, and I had to learn. My wife, who is a doctorate of education, helped me along the way. And so at some point, I kind of realized you don't have to be all of that, but you just got to be willing to work hard.
Yeah, you feel like that. Maybe I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
I'm just that shepherd boy, and and I have all these skills, but I ain't that smart. Everybody else is getting. But somebody come to you and said, no, you're actually smarter than you think. They
Sure.
call it out of you, right?
Yeah, no, man. There was a lady, and I don't even tell this story in the book. Her name was Gretchen Williams or something like that, but she was the writing lab coordinator at the University of Oklahoma. And I wrote really small, and I was in there trying to get my academics together. And she looked at me and she says, you know why you write so small? I said, no, I just write small. She says, yeah, because you don't want no one to read it because you're not spelling words correctly. And the smaller you make it, the better you feel like your chances are getting by with it. She's like, no, you're not going to do it. And she really called me out on my deal, right? And so I can't tell you I started writing much larger, but she really did point out why I was doing it. And even if I didn't recognize it within myself, at that moment I knew that that's what I was doing. And so she really helped me and others in that academic center, Teresa Turner and Gerald Gurney. And before Dr. Gurney, it was Dr. Thomas Hill, right? So he ran in the 72 Olympics with Moses Edwards, and his son was Thomas Hill that played at Duke, and another boy that played at. So anyway, man, it was a host of people that helped me get my academic life together.
So I'm going to admit to you and the world, I didn't write small.
Yeah.
I wrote neat and sloppy. Neat and sloppy. Real sloppy.
Yeah.
And it was because I couldn't spell. Like, I got the first letter right, then we scribbled them other ones in the middle, and and they can't really.
You gave him a real indication of where you were going.
Right.
Yeah.
It starts with a TH and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I find myself still when I'm writing and I get to a part that I know when I take notes, I just scribble that part and just keep going. So
what I learned is that spelling is not a sign of intelligence. They say
you should have told me that.
Well, I learned. I looked for stuff that was really going to help my ego, and they say Albert Einstein really couldn't spell.
Okay, that's not a sign of intelligence, but you still need to spell. You still need to spell.
Yes.
Right, you still need to spell. So let's get into this a little bit. So the book, without a doubt, is something special for your kids and your sons, and you have a daughter.
I do.
Right. So this is not to admit.
Not to.
Like, Daddy, where's my book?
Her stuff will come later, I pray and hope, yes.
Right. So who's the target audience? Is it the sons, and who are you trying to reach with this book?
Honestly, I didn't, when I wrote this, I was really only talking to my two sons.
So it started out as a memoir or something?
It started off just me wanting to say some things to them, not necessarily knowing what it was going to take or where it was going to go to, but as a dad who had just a moment to reflect on life and being a father. And I think, as I think about my own life and my father not being around all the time and some inconsistencies and some ups and some downs, I just wanted to say to my sons, here's what I think, right? Regardless of all the other noise in life, no matter what happens, here is what I honestly think. Here's what I think you ought to know. And one, I apologize. The end of it, I say I'm proud of you, and there are 25 other things in between. But I wanted them to know that when I'm gone, they have my words in writing, but hopefully ultimately they'll end up in their hearts. But it was just from me to them. Now, as I got to this point, man, it's for athletes, it's for girls, it's for boys. They're practical, as I try to say. They are powerfully practical principles. Nothing over your head. Remember, I'm LD, so I'm not going to write on the level that people get confused and don't understand. But I think they're just simply helpful. And as a dad, you want to leave a legacy, right? You want to share something with your kids. It's one thing to leave something in their hands, but I've always heard it's another to leave something in their hearts. And as a father, these are the principles that I hope that I can leave on the hearts of my sons.
So there's a couple of thoughts that come to mind as you were talking. Is not only are you a father, but for my family, you're someone we go to. Sure. In times of stress, and encouragement is needed at one level or another. So I'm sure you've counseled with some families that have some strained relationships. Sure. Or with fathers and sons. Talk a little bit about how this book might serve as an antidote in those moments.
Well, I think one, it becomes a place to start to talk, right? So if it's hard to start a conversation, there are some principles here, there's some stories here that you can start a conversation. The fear in challenges among people and families is that people don't hear us, right? Because oftentimes we don't want to listen to people who speak to us from a place of imperfections. We want people to speak to us that we don't have a clue about their imperfections, right? And so even as I write this book, or even as I talk about this, I have a fear that people are going to look at me and think, oh, he thinks he knows everything, or he's guilty of some stuff. I am. But just because we are not perfect doesn't mean that we can't speak and tell our truth. And I think that's the one. And one of the things that I say in the book is listen deeply. Right? Oftentimes we listen to respond, but sometimes we just need to listen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't have a response, right? And it's okay not to have a response. But I think it's a conversation that you can start. There are some things in there that can help you start the conversation.
Yeah, so lack of perfection doesn't remove purpose.
No, man. No. But a lot of times we don't want to hear from people who got a big old dirty bad track record. We want to hear from these perceived perfect people who can tell us how to reach this this kind of euphoric place, right? But no, man, hurting people are profound because they speak from a different place, right? Imperfect people still have positive things that they can share. So I just think as a father, you sitting down with your sons, you and I grew up in an era where our daddies never would have apologized to us. Well, I don't owe you an apology.
Let's start right there, because you started the book by saying I ain't perfect, but here's the thing you need to know, son. Yeah. In the very first chapter is learn to say I'm sorry.
I think I'm sorry. Learning to say I'm sorry. I think one, you just recognize, hey man, I haven't done it right, and I think in order to move forward, then you have to admit I've made some mistakes, but whether you know what they are or not. I just think to clear the air, I need to say.
And you say it to him in the book without going into detail of what I'm sorry about.
No.
And so is that a suggestion? Do I need to go to my son and say, son, I'm sorry. And I don't, that was between me and your mama. Or it ain't none of your business.
Sure.
But that business does impact you, and I know it.
Sure. It doesn't even have to be with your spouse. It could be a poor decision that was made and the public found out. It could be anything that your son or daughter could be impacted by it. It could be about perception. It could be about anything. But I think it puts you at a place to say, hey, here it is. I apologize. I think it's necessary. Also, what I tell them is this, is though I'm apologizing now, I still have the opportunity to hurt you again. right? Because I'm not at the perfection level, but I am acknowledging that. And so I think that's super important. In one conversation that you and I've already had, Jaden says he thought he needed to hear it, right? And
Yeah.
so I think it's important, right? It just puts us at a place where I think we can begin to have a conversation when I can admit I've been wrong. And I think it's an admission that I want to do better, even though I may struggle to get better in some places, areas of my life, right? But I think we can start on a level playing field. Somebody asked me a question about this book and about saying I'm sorry. And they asked me this question. They said, do you say I'm sorry about specific things?
Right.
I think we only need to talk about specific things when necessary. So if my son comes to me with a specific thing, and however I perceive that, then I need to be serious or genuine or transparent about that specific thing. Now, you and I both know when we grew up, you come to your parents with none of your business. And I think that every parent reserves the right to respond the way they want to. But I also will caution you, how is that going to impact your relationship with that child?
Later.
Right?
Later.
So you can tell them it's none of your business, which is absolutely fine with me. That's the kind of parenting I got. But I just feel like if they want to come talk to me about real life, then I want to be open enough to talk to them about real life. Now, I still may reserve some things, but for the most part, I'm going to share what I need to share in the moment.
Right. I love that you start there, but there's a distinct parallel to who you are as a leader and as a dad, because you start with I'm sorry. If we examine leadership of today and all of the key places that we feel like we need really good leadership in our communities right now, we really need to hear from them to say, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry. And that's accountability and that's ownership. And I think people respect somebody that recognizes where they need to improve and where they failed.
Well, I'll say it this way. Woe to a leader who feels like he or she never makes a mistake. So whether that mistake is intentional or unintentional, right? And that gets to another point in the book when you fall or fail. Listen, it's okay. I don't think people, to be secular here, 8 Mile with Eminem, right?
Yeah.
And the video.
A pastor watched that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. and in the movie, he basically wraps his life story and then tells them, now tell me something that I haven't told on myself, right? So like you disarm people.
Right.
And I think it's okay. Like you're not perfect. You're from where you're from. You've done what you've done. You've fallen on your face. But that doesn't mean that I can't do something moving forward, right?
Right. I'm becoming.
It's what we are. That's what mankind is. He's always becoming. He's not ever arrived yet, right? And so when these leaders who act as if they got no becoming left to do, that's the challenge. And as a father, you cannot think that you've just done it all and you've not made any mistakes.
Man, I'm so glad you took that. And I want to go to one of these chapters here, but one of the point of these conversations I always do is that I really, really, really believe in what people can become. And I say that at every episode, at the top of the broadcast, you heard me say, I believe in what people become and I want other people to believe in what. So becoming doesn't mean perfection.
No.
It means better than I was.
Every day, every moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it means.
Yeah.
All right.
It is becoming, man. Like I think at 47 now, I'm wiser now. I figured out some stuff. I'm still got challenges, but there are some things I really have figured out that I didn't have figured out 20 years ago.
Yeah. Now, I don't see the title in the book, but if I was to you got 27 chapters in here, and I would love for you to put 28 in here and say, you think you know it all, but you don't.
But you don't.
You know,
No.
because I've got to a point at a certain age where I'm like, man, I'm so smart right now that I know I don't know nothing.
Man.
Right.
Man.
So here's a. Let me just throw a couple of titles out here
Got
to
you.
you. So for those that don't have the book yet, it starts with learn how to say I'm sorry. Then it goes into learn how to accept responsibility, keep the big picture in mind, be true to yourself, don't judge other people, learn to be vulnerable, learn to maintain your faith, And all of these have like biblical principle at the beginning and start of them. But tell me this one. Tell me a little bit. Don't worry about what others think of you.
Sure. So on that principle, I have a picture with iguana on my head, right? I'm just an animal lover, and I got pictures with iguanas, tigers, birds, monkeys, all of that stuff, right? Well, a lot of times we won't do certain things based on what other people think, right? And especially when we say this most of the time for adolescents, boys or girls, but it's not true. It really happens as adults sometimes, right? There's still peer pressure at different levels and stages of our lives. I think when we are preoccupied with the thoughts of others, it prohibits us from reaching our purpose and destination, right? Because everyone's journey is not the same. Mine is going to look odd. Mine may be different than yours. I may have to go through some things. And so we cannot be concerned about what others think, because they are going to hinder us from going on the journey that is meant for us.
And so I mentor a lot of young men, and I know that my son is very strong-willed, and I know for a fact he's not going to look weak.
Sure.
He don't want to make a decision that's going to make him look a certain way, right? That might mean I'm not apologizing. That might mean any number of things. But what you're saying in this principle is, son, don't get caught up in that.
No, because you're going to let what others think move you into some places where there are going to be severe consequences, right? I could tell you some real stories about growing up in my community and being with some of my family members. And when they would get involved in some things, I just outwardly said, no, not going, don't want to do it, because I knew what the consequence was going to be. And yeah, maybe I did look weak, man, but I think you got to have courage to walk your walk, right? It takes a level of not being preoccupied by the thoughts of others. And when we let other people's thoughts influence us, they put us in the box, right? And so therefore, this is how we are perceived, because this is what we allow other people's thoughts to do to us. But when you go out on your own volition and really follow your heart and your own desire, and as a dad, that's what I want to tell my kids. I'm like, listen, learn how not to let that, even as a dad, there are things that my sons do that I would not do. And I will discourage them from doing. But trust me, they do them anyway, because it's their walk. And so to the point where if you feel like my thoughts are hindering you, don't let my thoughts hinder you, because they're grown now, 20, 23.
It's going to be your consequences.
It's going to be your consequences anyway. So no, man, we cannot be. And I think we never get to see the true talent of our children until we stop bogging them down with our thoughts for them. They have to have
the
their
only
own.
The only thing we really want them to know, if I'm hearing you correctly, is real courage for a young man is not found in going alone.
Absolutely.
But having the courage to go alone.
Hey, that's preaching right there.
No, don't do me that. Don't do me that.
Yeah. It is not the courage to go along, but it is the courage to go alone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. Retweet that.
Tweet that, y'all. Hashtag he said it. Right?
No, you said it.
Right. Well, I mean, I got that from what you said.
No, man, that's good stuff.
So the other one here that I really want to don't concentrate on the how, but on the who.
Yeah. So in the book, I say it is a direct reference to God, right? Because we all make plans on the how, but you and I both know it's really not the how, it's the who's. When I look at my life, when I go back to just the way I lived with a single mom and 5 kids, there were times she didn't have a car. My friend Brian Carter, he got a new car. They gave us their station wagon. When the story I tell in the book is about Andy Bogert, there was a time where a school was recruiting me to go play basketball in Texas. They didn't even know I played football. I told coach I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay home. This guy made sure that my family needs were met. some people say he did it for his own reasons, but he was an Oklahoma State alum. I went to University of Oklahoma. Our relationship never changed because I decided to go there. Man, when you start thinking about the who's in your life, it ain't been the hows. It's been those intersections where people have come alongside of you, did something for you, blessed you, paved the way for you. When I almost got kicked out of the university, a lady named Dean Carney, I had to go petition in her office, and she says, "Why should I let you stay?" I said, "Because if you don't, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to go to the military." It's the who, because she says, "I'm gonna let you stay, but you better make good." Right? It's the who's, man. And
It's not how you were able to stay.
no,
It's who made it possible for you to stay.
Who did it?
And that's good.
And I think, how did the turtle get on the fence post? You can't tell me. There's no how about that. Somebody there was a who picked the turtle up and put him on the fence post.
What you're saying is, what you're basically saying is, son, don't forget about people.
Don't discard. Don't think small or little of people. Because the most powerful thing you have in life are people.
Love people, period.
Man,
it's one of the premises of the conversation.
There's so much potential in all of us. So don't concentrate on how. And I think one of the things in there is one of the principle is to keep your eyes on the big picture, right? Because sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. We get so bogged down in the details that we miss the big picture. And that's what leadership is about. Sometimes you hear the complaints of everybody beneath you. It's because they don't have a panoramic view. They have their own view.
Right in front of them.
But it's not the view that you have as the leader for the organization. And so as my sons, listen, you need to keep the big picture in mind, because other people are going to give you their narrow view, but you have the broader view of what your life is, and you're developing it constantly, right? So you got to keep the big picture in mind. You can't get bogged down in details, and you got to concentrate on the who's and not always the hows.
So you're not just training them to be good men, good role models, but you're training them to be leaders.
Well, man, I used to tell my oldest son, Tevin, I said, dude, you have everything that I wished I had. My youngest son, Jaden, does a great job of speaking Spanish. My oldest son, Tevin, took Mandarin. If people think I will have an outgoing personality and can work a crowd, if that's in fact what you want to call it, well, these two boys of mine can absolutely do it. I mean, and authentically do it. It's not fake. They not after anything, but just can honestly move around, talk whatever you talking. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, guys, you got everything that I wish I had. And what I mean by that, they're academically more sound than me. They've walked in these different circles that I've walked in. And I'm just like, I wish I could do that. I wish I was as talented as you, right? And that's what I want them to know, man. You have so much in you that you don't even know.
Right. And it's so much. So the one thing that I almost want to change this to a leadership book.
Oh,
because it seems like it's just scripted down the roles of a leader, which a dad is.
Oh, absolutely.
Which a dad is. But so the one thing that leaders have to be, one thing that dads have to be, and one thing that you wrote in here is be an encourager.
Yeah, man.
Talk to us a little bit about why it's important to leave the message to your kids to be an encourager, and why I need to be one and they need to be one. Talk about being an encourager.
You've seen what is it called? Coming to America. And as he's there trying to find his queen, Simeon gets all of that money, and he doesn't want to live that way because he has to portray being poor, right? The king. So then he gives that money to those two homeless guys, and they knock on the, thank you. But before that, they said, Mortimer, we're back. That money served as a huge encourager that they can come back from the great loss. Our words of encouragement to somebody is to help them come back from a great loss. We don't want to leave people in lost places. We want to encourage people back to hopeful places.
Man.
So encouragement is exactly what we need. As a dad, I've made some mistakes. I've come down hard on my kids, but I'm growing and I'm learning that they don't need me to push them further in the mud. What they need from me is to say what I need to say as a father, but then encourage them to get back up again. None of us, if our kids fall off the bike, aren't going to put them back on. You're going to encourage them to get back on the bike.
Right.
So encouragement is essential, right? We need it, but we should also give it to other people. Man, I'm for the underdog. I'm for the dude whose picture shows up in the paper and he's made some horrible decisions. But guess what? I want to reach out to him because I want him to know, brother, you don't have to stay there.
Right.
And I believe that there's more in you.
Right. I don't think anybody's ever left the church where you were speaking or preaching a sermon and left discouraged.
Sure.
Right. You're very intentional, I guess, about that. But the thing that reminds me about being encouraged, I saw it this week. It was just some statistics on how long someone could stand in this frozen ice water. They could stay there X amount of time, but if they had somebody standing on the side of them saying, hold on, you can make it, they say twice as long.
Sure.
With just somebody saying you can do it.
Absolutely, man. And that's the picture, right? So that's why we believe in personal trainers. That's why they got strength and conditioning coaches at the collegiate level, professional level, because when I'm sitting under that bench press and I got 350 pounds, I need somebody to say, you've worked all of this time. You have not done 350 on the bar by itself, but I know the work you've put in, you got enough to push it. Mm-hmm. People need that encouragement to push them to make decisions that they never would have made, to put them in places that they never would have gone to, but somebody encouraged me to.
Right. And so I feel like you're saying to your sons, it don't cost you nothing to do this one thing.
No.
Go encourage the person next to you. Be an encourager.
So in that principle, there's a photo of the boys together. And as a dad and as a pastor and as a leader who has watched sibling strife, I want them to encourage one another. I want them to be not just brothers, but I want them to be friends. And when mama and daddy are gone, you need each other.
Right. Man, there's 27 principles. I feel like you could have wrote. See, there's my.
Hey, it's all good. We got it.
I'm gonna stick with it. You could have wrote another 27.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that way.
Well, tell me, while you're writing it, and I'm just gonna. You don't have to answer it, but I'm going. While you're writing this, were you thinking to yourself, Michael? When I was 20, which one of these? What would the Michael right now say to the 20-year-old Michael, having gone through these lessons yourself, having learned them through people or through mentors or through just life the hard way? What do you need to go back and say to Michael, who was 20 years old?
So, I would say to the 20-year-old me, what you start practicing at 20, it's going to be difficult to deal with at 40, right? If I'm not practicing some of these things and I got other behavioral, practicing other kinds of things, it's hard to deal with. So I would look at Mike and say, hey, there's consequences to that. Mm-hmm. Are you ready? Can you deal with the consequences of that? Right, so we think we're invincible. We think we know everything, but we don't. And so I would say to me, are you prepared to deal with the consequences of those choices? Because at 20, seemed easy to deal with.
I just asked that question today with a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. Which is why he was a 20-year-old mentee that was sitting down in my office, and we were going over some things. And I said to him pretty much what I just asked you. I said, what decision do you need to make today that a year from now the you a year from now is going to thank the you that's sitting here right now for? Will you be cussing you, or will you be thanking you
Yeah, really.
for a decision you're about to make when you leave my office?
Sure.
It really made him think. And so, but you know, as someone in the book, you're saying, think about that. Think about these things. These are things you ought to know.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, the choices we make today are inextricably tied to the span of choices we'll have to make on tomorrow. But 20-year-olds don't always see the big picture. They can only see now. And those choices at 20, Michael, will impact you at 30 and 40 and 50 and for a lifetime.
And harder to correct.
Harder to correct. So,
yeah.
So no, man, you know, we just have to really encourage people, you know, to find themselves, be true to themselves. But also we got to give people space. So one principle in there is don't judge people. And I'll kind of go.
Yeah.
There's so much trauma in our lives. And what happens is that the trauma manifests itself in different ways for different people. Sometimes it manifests itself in addictions, abuse, so on and so forth. But we judge those people, right? But not knowing what really precipitated, what pushed them over the ledge. And this is the other reason why we got to be encouraged, is because we don't know how close to the edge people are standing. So we cannot judge. When you see these famous people fall, when you hear about the people that you hold in high regard, they make a misstep. So what?
Some grace.
Man, listen. And another principle in the book, you know, when you fall or fail, get up. In track, you may get disqualified, but we're never disqualified from the grace of God. Maybe the race, but not from the grace. And so you know, man, we can't judge people. You know, we look at people, look at that dude. You don't even know. And so we got to be careful, right? Because somebody's looking at you too.
Right. And if you love people, what you just said matters.
It does. It does. Because I think the world and people aren't as what they could be is because I don't think they have very many people helping them to be.
Man.
And that's not like you got to give them anything, but at least give them some encouragement.
Right.
But see,
at least don't judge them.
One thing I say is I'm proud of you, but my sons don't need to know I'm proud of them when they walk across a graduation stage. They need to know I'm proud of them if I ever have to go stand with them before a man or a woman with a black robe on. It may be a disappointing moment, but I'm proud of you, bub. Right? We don't need to know you proud of me when I've done everything right. I need to know you proud of me even when I've stumbled and I've stumped my toe.
Will you, and I know we're going a little long, but will you talk to that young man who doesn't have his father in his life, who is saying, boy, I wish that I had someone they ain't got to write no book to me, but I would really like for them to tell me they're proud of me. I would really like for them to tell me some of these principles. Talk to that young man who does not have that man.
Sure. So to any man that doesn't have his father around, to be spiritual, there is a man that you can go to, someone that you can talk to and get familiar with through the Holy Word. But as just one man to another, whatever bit of hope that you need to hold on to it, right? This is a cliche. Trouble don't last always, right? There were some moments that were so dark in my life early. I never saw the light, never thought. I'm like, never saw what I'm doing now. There's always hope, man. Rain, sun will come out, and I know these are simple responses, but to every young man, listen, you can make it. Identify a man, go find a pastor, go find a leader that you want to yoke up with, go find a mentor, master mentor right here, right? Go find someone who can pour into your life. Every man needs a man, right? Iron sharpens iron. That is not to say women don't sharpen women. And I don't want to, even those parents who think that they're protecting their kids, some relationships, well, he's bad for me and my kids. Well, he may not be good for you, but a piece of him may be good for those children.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
and so protect him, but still give him a piece of his father or you know, whatever it is. I just think we got to be open. You know, man, I know it's hard to look at parents behind bars or so on or so forth, but just to have a piece of him, right, I think is good. And so as you think about Father's Day and you think about your son, if there's bad relationships, seek to mend them. They don't have to look like somebody else's to be usable, but seek to do something. That every man, every daddy, don't be so mad at your wife or your baby's mama to where you refuse to be a part of that child's life, man. Fight to be a part of that, whatever it takes, you know, without being hurtful and harmful to each other, but just try. Just try.
I love it. So again, this is going to make an excellent Father's Day gift.
Sure.
So tell us how we can tell us how we can get them.
Gotcha.
How to connect with your ministry, how to connect with you. And then I also think there's some benefit. I don't know if you're not going to offer this, but I think there's some benefit for you coming to talk to my youth group and talking to some teams. How do we make this happen?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, Michael McDaniel, Michael McDaniel _ on these places, Instagram and Facebook. To order the book, you can go to Northeast Missionary Baptist Church, which is www.nmbc-ok.com. And you can order the books there, right? Or you can also go to Amazon and order the book there, right? So it's $25 you order from me. It's $24.18 ordering it from Amazon. So you can also connect with me on Juneteenth, this Saturday, from basically 11 o'clock until
Is that
about
at Washington Park?
Washington Park. June 19th, Juneteenth celebration. So we'll be there. And also, I believe I'm going to have a book signing at our church on the first Sunday of July, which I believe that's the 4th, actually. And I know that'll be a busy day for some, but it'll be early before all of your festivities start. So, but July 4th, we'll do something at our church, probably starting around 1 o'clock.
So before I let you go, you mentioned Juneteenth. Give us a little education on Juneteenth. People don't know about Juneteenth.
No, it's amazing how many people don't know about Juneteenth.
It's amazing that a lot of people don't know about Juneteenth. But it is a celebration for, in my opinion, not just for black people at this point.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody.
So essentially, after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation about freeing slaves, some 2 years later, I can't remember the general's name, who really goes into Port Arthur, Texas, all of those places, basically to make sure that all of the slaves were free. So 2 years later, the most southern slaves in Texas didn't even realize
they didn't were free.
They didn't even know they were free. And so Juneteenth is a noteworthy celebration because there are still people who don't know that they're free. Right. And I'm not just talking about from oppression in that way, but I'm just talking about in life. We're still in bondage to what people think about us. We're still in bondage to our past mistakes. Some son, some father is still not free because of something. You're free. You really are.
And imagine getting the word.
Yeah. Officially.
I'm free from all of that.
I ain't got to deal with it.
I ain't got to deal with this.
To the point where I believe some people said, no, that's not true.
Yeah, right. So if you do the homework, if you do the homework on Juneteenth, it's like they got word. They were like, some people's like, I'm out. I'm going north.
Yeah, really.
Right. So they went north, and then some people said, wait a minute. I was separated from my kids, and they went to Oklahoma, and they went to Louisiana, and they went to Arkansas. Yeah. I'm out here. I'm going to go find them.
Absolutely.
And then other people said, I ain't leaving because they know where we at. I'm staying here because they coming back when they get the word that we free.
Sure.
The celebration that must have been like.
Oh man, what a celebration!
What a celebration! Yeah. And then we have the opportunity this weekend to come out and celebrate with the whole community, and then pick up a book and get it signed by the man himself.
Hey, I'll be out there. I'm gonna have on a cool hat or something because it's gonna be hot. But I'm excited, man. Thank you, Officer Lieutenant Cubit, for having me on, man. Yeah. I finally made it to Conversations with Cubit.
Thank you so much for being here. Next week, in preparation for 4th of July. Watch this now. We're going to dissect barbecue.
Oh my God.
Right here in Oklahoma, we have someone, a journalist, that has gone all over the state, and he has figured out how to tell where the best barbecue is.
Well, I'm watching.
So next week, Conversations with Cubit, it's going to be a fun show. If you think you know how to get down.
You going to have some food here?
I think we're going to have some food here.
Okay.
But we're going to lock the door.
Okay.
Because we don't want to like that stuff. That's it for Conversations with Cubit. We'll see you next week.